Hey, Jason Miller here, PhD, Dr. Miller, if you want to call me that. But I can't save your life unless it's indirectly through the barbell, and even then it's questionable. But another video for you. This one you might find interesting if you are into sets and rep schemes or lifting weights, and if you're on this channel, then that applies to you, so you're in the right spot. Be sure to like this video if you end up liking it, and subscribe to my channel at the, well, subscribe now. Just do it now. Do it now. There's 65 plus videos now I have up on YouTube, different topics, journal club, book review, all kinds of fun stuff. And this one's a topical, like a topical ointment. That's what this video is. So what I've done here is I've put up 4 different set configurations, okay? Set and repetition configurations with the idea of strength training. We're talking about strength training here. How do I get stronger? How do we gain strength? What's the best way to do it? And I've listed here traditional cluster, rest pause, and NEMA. I'm going to go through each one of these quickly, and maybe you'll see, or at least try one of them, especially if you have bridge the gap through have already gained strength through the traditional method, and you're finding that, and not bridge the gap, and you're finding that you've plateaued. So remember this notion of strength is it's about the load. And so when it comes to hypertrophy training, if you just want straight hypertrophy, it's about volume. It's about reps. Reps are king. When it comes to getting stronger, load is king. Now, there's a little bit of mix there, of course. You don't want to just do body weight exercise for hypertrophy. You want to have some load on there. But if you have to sacrifice anything in order to gain hypertrophy, it's going to be the load. When it comes to strength training, though, you don't want to sacrifice the load. You want to have as many loaded reps at the percentage you want, if it's RP or whatever, or RAR, or whatever it is. You want to have as many of those reps loaded as high as possible that you maintain movement quality. So for example, here I have the old 5x5 here, a Mad Cow's 5x5, right? It's been around a long time. Now, doing 25 reps at 85% if you're strength trained is brutal. You're not going to be able to maintain the load. I would contend that most strength trained people cannot do that. Even a 3x5. So if we just said, okay, the first 2 sets are warm up, a 3x5 at a flat load at 85%, it's going to get ugly towards the end if you do complete it. Those reps are going to get grindy. If your percentages are on, you're going, like your max, and this is truly an 85% of 1RM, it's going to be ugly. The movement quality is going to decline. So you have 2 choices there. You either take the load down, or you just grind out reps. Now you can get stronger grinding out reps. The downside is you can get hurt, more likely to get hurt, and 2, because you have technique breaks. Number 2 is barbell velocity slows down, and from the research literature, we know that if you maintain some barbell movement quality, you think the velocity-based training, things like this, if you maintain the movement quality, the velocity of the barbell, you also get stronger, and you do it in such a way that you don't ramp up fatigue. So it's an auto-regulated type of approach. So in setting up a resistance training program and trying to get stronger, the goal would be get as many loaded reps as possible. You maintain barbell velocity and movement quality, technique quality. Okay, so early on doing 3x5 at 85%, because you're probably getting stronger so fast that you're way behind your actual 1RM, could work out, and that's where I would recommend people start. You'll be able to do a 3x5. Okay, but as you go with a 2 to 3 minute rest, probably more on the 3 minute rest side. But as you become more strength trained, it's going to be harder to do. So you could say, well, now I'm going to do a pyramid. So I'm going to do 75%, 80%, 85. That last set of my 3x5 is a money set. That's fine, but that means you only had 1 set at 85%. What if you could do all 15 reps of your 3x5? I have 5x5 here, but 3x5, if you get all 15 reps at an 85% of your 1RM, wouldn't that be a better idea? And the answer I'm going to give you, I think, is yes, right? Is yes. So let's look at some other ways to do that. So let's say you've run this and you're like, man, I'm to this point, I'm doing pyramids, and those, again, I'm not against a good pyramid. I like pyramids. But I'm just saying, is there a better way to do it, maybe, right? I'll occasionally use pyramids, but I've found these other ways, I think, superior to it, okay? You can put down in the comments that you don't like my haircut and you think I'm a fool, and that's fine. Clustering, all right, cluster. So a cluster might look like, and I left the kind of 25 rep idea, but the cluster might be 5 sets of 3 plus 2 at 85% now. With a 2 minute rest, probably still going to be 3 minute rest, but you could hypothetically cut down the rest between sets. So what's that plus sign mean? Well, cluster set is you take an intra-set rest. So in other words, you do 3 reps and then you rest for 30 seconds, maybe 15 if you're doing hypertrophy, but if you're talking about strength, I would do 30. So you rack the bar, you step away from it, and you give yourself 30 seconds. Then you crawl back under the bar and you finish your set. Rep 3 is where the bar tends to slow down. Okay, we've seen this research literature. I see this many times working with Olympic Olympic-style weightlifting athletes. Rep 3 is when things usually go sideways. Even for experienced athletes, the barbell is going to slow down. Movement quality starts to decline. So if we could, instead of that, if we could maintain movement quality through rep 4 and 5 especially, a cluster set's a great way to do that. So you rest and you get those all the load all the reps, completed then are under the 85% load. You don't have to adjust the load down. Now you might. I'm just saying the idea of this cluster set is that you don't. That you can maintain all 15 reps, in this case 25, but maintain all 15 reps under the 85% load instead of doing a pyramid, or instead of having the drop weights, doing a involuntary descending pyramid where you're taking, I'm talking about the load, taking the load down as you go. Okay, so cluster can be a superior method. I like these a lot. Even in like 80%, where you might say, I can get 6 reps, do a 3+3, right? Or even a 4+2. If I want to push a little bit more into that first block, you can configure these clusters in different ways. But the idea is to maintain movement quality and to not have to adjust the load down. You maintain the load throughout the set. Okay, we're talking about strength here. This is a good idea. Hypertrophy, you might, if this was a long, maybe you want a back squat and your technique starts to fail, you could do a 5+5, and that plus is only 15 seconds. So it's a smaller rest period. Okay, and it's okay if you lose a little bit of load along the way still, because remember, reps are king in that case. All right, let's look at rest pause. Rest pause is somewhere in between EMOM and a cluster. A rest pause, like the research literature, it's more of a hypertrophy type of structure, but I wanted to put it in here as an idea. It starts to look like an EMOM depending on how you set it up. Again, it looks like a cluster depending on how you set it up. So in the research literature, you lift 2 reps every 30 seconds. Now you can adjust these variables. In the research literature, they've done 4 reps at a time. Adjusted the rest period. But in general, a 2 reps every 30 seconds, right? At 85%, you could do 16 reps if you want to make it nice and even. How many little clusters you do in your rest pause? But that's a way of reassigning the rest. So not taking the 2-minute, 3-minute rest between sets and saying, look, I'm going to take just more smaller rest periods between each 2 rep bundle. Now you might find with this that you still lose load over time, because the 30 seconds is not long enough in order to maintain movement or movement quality, but also maintain the load so you can get that movement quality. So this may not be the best setup for strength, and rest pause typically is used for hypertrophy. Okay, so I think it's really good for that, especially if you're like one set. I'm gonna do one set. I'm gonna get 30 reps into my biceps curls or whatever, my seated row, and I'm willing to sacrifice some load for this. I'm gonna do 2 reps or 4 reps, every 30 seconds, and then and so on. Okay, there's all kinds of configurations of that. Myo reps, I did a video on that. Myo reps, Ryo sets, Myo reps. You can look at that video I put up as well. But this is something you could try though. All right, I would just be careful with compound movements. Again, movement quality should be high here. And if you start sacrificing load and strength as the goal, then you should maybe reevaluate. Maybe a rest pause method isn't the best. And the last one's EMOM. And this is the one I've gone to a lot more in the last month or two. Even, and I know some of you are like, dude, I've been doing this for a long time. I gotta get with the program. Fair enough. I move like a glacier though when it comes to new ideas. And EMOMs to me have always been grinders, and that's just my fault for not seeing the value in this and just doing enough cluster sets and kind of thinking about rest redistribution structures. It was like, EMOM, let's give these, and I like it a lot, especially actually for the higher percentages. So, doing 1 rep. So for example, if you did 90%, okay, back squat, you're looking at doubles quality movement for sure. Like if you look at the NSCA book, it's like 4 reps. I'm like, dude, 4 reps at 90% is tough for most strength trained individuals. Okay. Now you get like somebody's a rower or something that's a little different, but I'm talking about your general barbell athlete, weightlifter, power lifter, things like that. 90% at 4 reps is pretty tough. And so, getting, let's say, 3 by, it's, if you go by the old table, right. And, let's say you want to get your 7 reps in at optimal, getting those reps in, 2 by 4 or even a 3 by 3. I know it's a little bit more than 7, but the longer the set goes, the poorer the movement quality. I think a 3 by 2 you probably could be all right, but a 3 by 3 would be a little tougher, and 3 by 2 now is below your 7 reps. So what I'm getting at is an EMOM can be a nice way to work at heavier loads. I could say we're going to do EMOM at 90% at 8 reps. So an 8 rep EMOM, 1 rep at a time, every rest on the minute, crawl on the bar, squat it, and then put it on the rails, right? You'll maintain load doing that, because the rest, if it's 45 second, 30 second rest, depending on how fast you can move the barbell, get set up and get going, is going to be adequate in order to complete the set. Again, that looks like a little bit like a rest pause. It looks a little bit like a cluster, but unlike the cluster, it doesn't have a uniform rest period, like a 2-minute rest between this and that and the other thing. It looks more like a rest pause, but it's not so high repped and too fast for the percentage that you can't keep up with it, right, in terms of recovery. You could do 2 reps, and again, this looks more like rest pod, but you could do 2 reps. Like it's 85%. You're going to do 2 reps, and you're going to push the volume, and for outside of the regular 15 rep optimal zone, and you're going to go up to 30 reps for this. Okay, you could work in a higher amount of volume at an 85% load. If you're watching, sorry, that little glitch there. Sometimes my computer just stops working. Anyway, so one thing to consider though is engagement with the work. So if we do a 3x5, 85%, and 3-minute rest, sometimes we sit in that 3-minute rest. It's like, boy, this next set is going to be a killer, right? Or, you can get ramped up for it and get excited for it, but that little rest time is like, you kind of lose contact with the intensity of the set. This is one of the reasons I like the EMOM as well, and even the cluster set to some degree, is that you maintain the intensity of the set. If you're trying to do 8 reps at 90% or 10 reps at 90%, I mean, that's a competitive type of thing where you rack the bar and it's like, man, I got to go again in 40 seconds. I'm always staying in contact with the load. I know that sounds weird, but mentally it's staying engaged with the set. It's more challenging. I'm not saying you should do any of these all the time. This would be a nice rotation every cycle you employ one of these strategies, probably the cluster and the EMOM and the traditional more so, but at least talk about strength. But these can be great ways to rotate your engagement with your program. If you do them in flat loading, traditional loading for a while, you might be getting stale. So work in some EMOMs, you'll find that you get competitive with it a little bit more. You might find you can add load as you go. Okay. So just, again, it depends on where you're at, which one of these is most appropriate. It depends on the time you have. I don't necessarily like EMOMs for percentages under 85 necessarily. I'll use them for 80, but anything under that, and I'm using percentage here. We could be talking about RPE, of course, and RIR and all those good things, a lot of regulated things, which I like, so don't get me wrong. But I am saying, though, that this using percentage, I'm just trying to give you an idea how this might be set up. I like the EMOM for 85% and higher for sure. The cluster is the same, especially for strength trained individuals. The traditional, I might use for beginners, people that are just still building their strength, and then move to some pyramids, and then move on to one of the clusters at EMOM. And then just simple rest redistribution, which I don't have on here as well. So if I took 30 reps and I'm going to do 85%, that's a lot of work, but I'm not going to do it 5 reps at a time. I'm going to do it 2 to 3 reps at a time, and that just means more sets. So that's a simple way to, rest redistribution. That's a simple way to do things as well. I'm not saying there isn't other ways to do this. These are just 4 I thought I'd throw out there, see what you think. Again, if you have comments, put them in the bottom. If you think I'm a fool for even proposing these 4, so be it. There's lots of ways to get stronger. Again, I'm just trying to give you some ideas how to preserve that load over the course of volume. More volume, more load, more strength, right? More load, more strength. But if you can get more volume at load, even better, even better. And so these are, the cluster and the EMOM and the rest probably to some degree, but the cluster and EMOM for sure are ways to do that. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Again, if you liked it, give this a like, and hopefully you'll check out some other videos I have. And also check out my book. I wrote one, and what would be a good video if I didn't do some sort of salesman pitch. So check out that book as well. It's available on Amazon. The link in the video description. Take care.